Bella. I stared at her for what felt like hours before a laugh tore through my lips. Elaine had to be really stupid standing here, threatening me. Yeah, really stupid. And this isn't a warning, it's a threat. Today's embarrassment is just the tip of the iceberg to what I'm capable of. What more truck do you have up your sleeves? I feigned intriguement, watching her with false enthusiasm. Her face now was scrunched up with her breaths coming out loud and made me angry, but I loved that I was getting under her skin. What do you think you are? Elaine sounded like a mean high school girl, and boy, was it hilarious. Trying to take Mabel's place in Kai's life? She knew Kai's ex-mate. She scoffed, staring at me in the eye as she said the next words that registered in my soul like a carving on stone. You could never measure up to her even if you tried. All you are is a pathetic loser pining for someone else's leftovers. Elaine, that's enough. Kai spoke as he approached us. You don't get to tell me what to do. Elaine huffed, folding her hands over her chest. Another word from you, and you wouldn't be alive to say another. He threatened, and she rolled her eyes as though she was sure it was an empty threat, but she turned around and walked away anyways. I was frozen in the spot, my mind reeling with the words that Elaine spoke, sharp as daggers, piercing through my chest, creating a void. Pining for someone else's leftovers. It wasn't just the malice in her tone that had left me reeling, it was the unsettling truth that lingered beneath her jabs. Pining for someone else's leftovers. The phrase echoed in my mind, taunting me with its cruel accuracy. I thought back to all the times Kai had spoken about Mabel, and I couldn't help but wonder if he still had feelings for her. Probably, I thought, my mind racing with doubts. Maybe he's only with me because he can't have her back. The memories came flooding back. The way Kai would occasionally mention Mabel's name in conversation. The way he would sometimes seem lost in thought. I had always assumed that those moments were just a natural part of the healing process, but now I wondered if they were something more. Probably, I thought again, my doubts growing. Maybe he's still in love with her. A pang of sadness shot through me as I grasped what I thought was the truth. I felt like I was living in a dream that was rapidly unraveling before my eyes. Kai's words, his actions, everything seemed different now. Probably, I thought once more, my heart heavy with uncertainty. Maybe I'm just a rebound, a way for him to fill the void left by Mabel. I felt a wave of anger wash over me, followed by a deep sense of betrayal. How could Kai claim to love me, to want a future with me, when he still harbored feelings for his ex-mate, his ex-wife? The thought made my stomach turn, and I felt small, insignificant, like I was just a placeholder, a temporary distraction from the love he truly desired. I thought back to all the times Kai had told me he loved me, the way he had looked at me with such adoration in his eyes. Had it all been a lie? Had he been using me to fill the void left by Mabel? The thought was too much to bear, and I felt a lump form in my throat. I didn't know how much more of this I could take. The pain, the uncertainty, the feeling of being second best. I deserved better than to be someone's rebound, someone's consolation prize. I deserved to be loved fully, completely, without any lingering feelings for someone else. I turned to Kai, my eyes blazing with a mix of anger and hurt. I don't know if I can do this, I said, my voice trembling. Kai's expression changed from calm to concerned. Do what? He asked, taking a step closer to me. I shook my head, trying to process my thoughts. Us, this contract marriage, I'm not sure it's a good idea anymore. Kai's eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched. What's going on, Bella? You're not making any sense. We just discussed this and you agreed to it. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my courage. I know, but I don't know if I can be with someone who still has feelings for their ex-mate. I spat out the words, feeling a pang of hurt and betrayal. Kai's expression changed, his eyes widening in surprise. Bella, where is this coming from? I don't have feelings for Mabel anymore. I raised an eyebrow, skeptical. Really? It was sarcastic, and he got the memo. Kai's eyes locked onto mine, his expression softening as he reached out to take my hands. Bella, please listen to me. I don't know what Elaine said to you, but it's not true. I swear I'm committed to us, to our contract marriage. I tried to pull my hands away, but Kai held tight, his fingers wrapping around mine like a vice. Let me go, Kai, I said, my voice firm but shaking with emotion. Just as Kai was about to respond, Xavier walked into the room, his eyes scanning the tense atmosphere before landing on Kai's hands wrapped around mine. "Let her go, Kai," Xavier said, his voice low and even, but with a hint of warning. Kai hesitated for a moment before releasing my hands. I stepped back, my eyes never leaving Kai's face. Xavier moved to stand beside me, his presence a comforting shield against Kai's intense gaze. As I looked at Kai, I couldn't help but feel a pang of attraction. Even in the midst of all this tension and uncertainty, Kai still had that undeniable oomph, that charisma that drew me in like a moth to a flame. It was infuriating, really. Why did I still find him so attractive, even when I was so angry with him? I mentally chided myself for still being drawn to Kai despite everything. I needed to snap out of it, to remember why I was so angry with him in the first place. "Stay away from me, Kai," I said, my voice firm and resolute. Kai's face fell, his eyes clouding over with hurt and frustration. But I stood my ground, refusing to back down. "I mean it, Kai," I repeated, my voice steady. "I don't want to see you. I don't want to talk to you. Just leave me alone." Kai's jaw clenched, his eyes blazing with determination. "I'm not going to stay away from you, Bella," he said, his voice low and even. "We're married, for crying out loud. We've been married for only a few days and you're already pushing me away?" I crossed my arms, trying to appear more confident than I felt. "That's not the point," I said. "The point is that I need some space, and I need you to respect that. You're just using me as a rebound, aren't you?" I spat out the words, my voice trembling with anger. "You're still in love with Mabel, and I'm just a convenient substitute." Kai's face contorted in shock, and he took a step back as if I had physically slapped him. "That's not true, Bella," he said, his voice low and urgent. "I love you, not Mabel. I've told you that before, and I mean it." I laughed, a bitter sound. "You expect me to believe that? After everything that's happened? You're still stuck on your ex-mate, and I'm just a pawn in your game of healing." Kai's eyes flashed with anger, but he took a deep breath and tried to calm down. "Bella, listen to me," he said, his voice soft and persuasive. "I know I've made mistakes, but I swear to you, my love for you is real. I'm not using you as a rebound. I love you for who you are, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and I've made that clear." "Sure, you most definitely have." I rolled my eyes. "Bella, please. We can work this out. If you can't respect my decision and give me the space I need, then maybe we're not meant to be together," I said, my voice firm and resolute. "If you keep pushing me, keep trying to wear me down, then you might as well say goodbye to our chances of making this work." "Bella, don't say that," he said, taking a step forward. But I was already turning away, already walking out the door. "Give me space, Kai," I called back over my shoulder, "or lose me forever." As we drove home, Xavier tried to cheer me up, chattering away about getting my favorite food and watching my favorite movie. But I wasn't in the mood. I stared blankly out the window, my mind still reeling from the argument with Kai. Xavier seemed to sense my mood because he fell silent, focusing on the road instead. After a few minutes, he suddenly took a U-turn, and I looked at him in surprise. "Where are we going?" I asked, but Xavier just smiled and kept driving. I raised an eyebrow, but didn't press the issue. Instead, I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes, letting the motion of the car lull me into a state of numbness. It wasn't until we pulled up outside a club that I sat up, looking at Xavier in surprise. "What are we doing here?" I asked, but Xavier just grinned and got out of the car. I followed him, and as we walked into the club, I was surprised to see my other brothers, Ralph, Lennon, and Hunter, all gathered at a table, laughing and joking. "Hey, sis," Ralph called out, waving me over. "We were starting to think you'd never show up." I smiled, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. "Xavier brought me here," I said, plopping down in an empty chair. Lennon raised an eyebrow. "Xavier, what's going on? You know Bella's not really in the party mood." Xavier shrugged. "I figured she could use a distraction. Besides, we're not here to party. We're here to take her mind off things." Hunter nodded. "Yeah, and we're here to make sure she's okay. So Bella, what's going on? You can tell us." I sighed, feeling a lump form in my throat. "It's just, Kai and I had a fight, and I don't know, guys, I just feel like I'm not sure if I can do this anymore." My brothers exchanged a look, and then Ralph spoke up. "Bella, you know we're here for you, no matter what. If you need to take a step back from Kai, then that's what you should do. Your happiness is what matters most to us. I felt a surge of gratitude towards my brothers. They always knew how to make me feel better. Thanks, guys, I said, smiling weakly. Just being around you makes me feel better. Lennon grinned. That's what big brothers are for. Now let's get some drinks and forget about Kai for a while. I nodded, feeling a sense of determination wash over me. I was going to focus on what really mattered, my family, and making sure Cora got the best treatment possible. Kai could wait, Bella. After that night, I just stopped talking to Kai altogether. No texts, no calls, no casual nods in the hallway of the hospital, which I never actually saw him in since the day we fought. I didn't block his number or anything dramatic. I just chose silence. I told myself it was for the best. No more confusion, no more wondering what every gesture or word meant. In reality, every time my phone buzzed, a small part of me wondered if it was him. And when it wasn't, I couldn't help feeling relieved, disappointed, maybe a bit of both. Elaine, of course, couldn't keep her mouth shut for more than a day. By the time I got to work the next morning, everyone knew about Xavier, Ralph, Lennon, and Hunter being my biological brother. The gossip spread like wildfire. They're what? Lily had asked me during our break, her eyes wide like she'd just heard the juiciest story of her life. They're my brothers, I admitted, not bothering to sugarcoat it. Amber's jaw dropped. Wait, Xavier? Like Dr. Xavier? And Alpha Ralph? Yup, I said, popping the P for emphasis and trying to act like it was no big deal. And Hunter and Lennon. The rest of my brothers took full advantage of the situation, though. Now that the secret was out, they stopped by the hospital all the time, usually during their breaks. It was nice having them around, but I wasn't the only one who noticed. The first time the three of them showed up at once, it caused such a stir that patients in the waiting room craned their necks just to catch a glimpse of them. I was sorting through patient files in my office when Xavier strolled in, followed by Hunter, Lennon, and Ralph. They didn't even knock. Seriously? Looking up from my desk as four very smug faces greeted me. Do none of you understand boundaries? Boundaries are for strangers, little sis, Lennon said, dropping into the chair across from me. Yeah, and last I checked, we're family, Hunter added, leaning casually against the wall. Family or not, this is still a workplace, I replied, trying to keep my voice firm. I can't believe you even allowed this. I looked over at Xavier with a raised eyebrow. Xavier smirked, grabbing an apple from the bowl on my desk. I was the one who suggested it. I rolled my eyes. How professional. Lennon sat on the edge of my desk, ignoring my glare. We're just here to check in. Can't we make sure our baby sister isn't overworking herself? I groaned, leaning back in my chair. You guys are impossible. Hunter raised an eyebrow, his voice full of mock seriousness. Impossible? Or incredibly awesome? Annoying, I corrected, though I couldn't help the small smile tugging at my lips. Oh my gosh, Bella, one of the nurses, Cora, whispered to me as she passed by after they had gone. I heard they're your brothers? Is that true? They're so, wow. I rolled my eyes. Yes, they're my brothers, and no, I'm not setting you up with any of them. Cora pouted, but didn't push the issue, though that didn't stop others from asking. The quadruplets had a way of turning heads wherever they went, and the hospital staff wasn't immune. At least their visits helped detract me from Kai. But of course, my peace didn't last long. Layla showed up for one of her prenatal checkups, and the moment she spotted me, her smug smile made my stomach churn. Well, if it isn't Mabel's replacement, she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. The words hung in the air, sharp and biting. I didn't rise to the bait at first, focusing on my clipboard as if her words didn't bother me. I pretended to be absorbed in the list of tasks I had to complete, but my mind was totally alert. I could feel her eyes on me, waiting for a reaction. You know, Layla continued, her tone mocking, I bet you didn't even see it coming. Becoming his backup, his little substitute. But then again, I guess it's easier to just play the part, right? I clenched my jaw, refusing to let her get to me. Honestly, she continued, stepping closer, that's all you'll ever be. A substitute for me, and now a substitute for Mabel. That did it. Before I knew it, my hand shot out, and I grabbed her by the throat. Her eyes widened in shock, and for a second she looked genuinely scared. Say that again, I hissed, my voice low and dangerous. Layla shrieked, her arms flailing around, trying to get free. Just as I was tightening my grip, Max rushed into the room, his face filled with a mix of anger and annoyance. "What are you doing?" he yelled, grabbing my arm and shoving me away from Layla like I was some kind of threat. I stumbled back, trying to keep my cool. I felt my pulse racing, but I wasn't about to back down. I shot him a look, grinding my teeth. She had it coming. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms as I forced myself to stay calm. The last thing I needed was to escalate the situation. Without another word, I turned and walked away, heading straight to my office. I slammed the door behind me, leaning against it as I tried to catch my breath. My hands were still shaking, and Layla's words continued to replay, over and over again in my mind. "You're nothing but a replacement." I hated how much it got to me. No matter how hard I tried to shake it off, the thought still lingered. Maybe she was right. Maybe Kai saw me as a stand-in for something he'd lost, rebound material, not someone he could truly care about. The thought floated around in my mind, and I could feel it sitting heavy in my chest. I didn't like the way it tasted, like something sour that I couldn't shake. At that moment, I knew what I had to do. If I couldn't be the one to have Kai's full heart, if I was just someone filling in a space for him, then I didn't want him in my life at all. Later that day, I visited Cora's hospital room. Seeing her always helped calm me, and today was no exception. She looked much better than she had a week ago. Her complexion was brighter, and there was a spark in her eyes that hadn't been there before. "Bella, dear," she said warmly as I walked in, "you're a sight for sore eyes." I smiled, setting a small bouquet of flowers on her bedside table. "You're looking good, Mama. Feeling good today?" 100%, she replied, patting the edge of the bed. "Come, sit. Tell me what's new." I hesitated for a moment before sitting down. Cora had always been like a second mother to me, and her kindness was a balm to my frayed nerves. We chatted for a while, mostly about mundane things, hospital gossip, her recovery, and the new cafe that had opened nearby. As the conversation continued, Cora tilted her head, studying me closely. "You seem distracted," she said gently. "Is everything all right?" I hesitated, debating how much to share. Finally, I shrugged, not wanting to bother her with my issues. "Nothing I can't handle." She nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You've always been strong, Bella. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise." Her words meant more to me than she probably realized, and for the first time all day, I felt hopeful. Xavier walked in shortly after, his usual confident stride softening when his eyes landed on Cora. "How's my favorite patient today?" Cora raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a teasing smile. "I'm your only patient, Xavier. Doesn't seem like much of a competition." We all laughed, and Xavier chuckled as he moved to her bedside. "Well, that just means you're winning by default. How are you feeling, Luna?" "I'm feeling pretty good," she admitted, her tone lighter. "But I'm ready to get this surgery over with. It's been a long time coming." Xavier nodded and turned to me. "Bella, can I have a word with you outside for a minute?" I followed him into the hallway, a sense of dread creeping up my spine. Xavier looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen in a while. "About the surgery," he began, glancing around to make sure no one was nearby. "This procedure is pretty high risk. We're basically treading new ground here. Bella, I know you're more than capable as a member of the team, but—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I just want to make sure you're ready, no matter the outcome." I met his gaze. "I know what's at stake, Xavier. I won't let anything get in the way of this. We've come this far, and I'm definitely not backing down now." He gave my shoulder a quick squeeze. "Don't worry, we've got this." K.I. I sat in my office, staring blankly at the papers scattered across my desk. My mind was 1,000 miles away, consumed by thoughts of Bella and the argument we'd had. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd blown it, that I'd somehow managed to sabotage my own chances with her. The thought of losing her was like a knife to the gut. I couldn't bear the idea of living without her, of never getting to hold her in my arms again. And yet, that's exactly what I might have done. By not being fully honest with her about my past, by not being open about my feelings, I might have pushed her away for good. The worst part was, she thought I was using her as a rebound. Me, using Bella as a rebound? The idea was absurd. I loved her, truly and deeply. She was the one person who had managed to break through the walls I'd built around myself, the one person who had made me feel alive again. But there was a part of me that still held on to Mabel, a part of me that still grieved for what we'd had. I knew it wasn't fair to Bella, to be still holding on to the ghost of my past relationship. But I couldn't help it. Mabel had been a huge part of my life, and letting her go felt like losing a part of myself. I rubbed my temples, feeling a headache coming on. I was so confused, so torn. I didn't know how to let go of the past, how to move on from Mabel. All I knew was that I couldn't lose Bella, not now, not when I'd finally found her. But it might already be too late. Bella had made it clear that she needed space, that she couldn't deal with me right now, and I couldn't blame her. I'd hurt her badly. I just hoped that someday she'd be able to forgive me. As I sat there, feeling helpless and desperate, I considered reaching out to her directly. Maybe if I could just talk to her, explain how I felt, she'd understand. Maybe she'd forgive me and we could work through this together. But then I remembered her words, the ones she'd spoken with such conviction and determination. If you can't respect my decision and give me space, then maybe we're not meant to be together. If you keep pushing me, keep trying to wear me down, then you might as well say goodbye to our chances of making this work. I felt a chill run down my spine as I recalled the look in her eyes, the firmness in her voice. She'd meant every word, and I knew that if I pushed her now, I'd lose her forever. I slumped back in my chair, feeling defeated. I had no choice but to give her the space she needed, no matter how hard it was for me. I just hoped that someday she'd be willing to listen to me again, to give me another chance. But for now, I had to respect her boundaries, no matter how much it hurt. A knock on my door interrupted my thoughts, causing a loud groan to escape my lips. "Come in." I replied anyway. I watched the doorknob turn before the door was opened, and Elaine walked into the office, her usual sly smile dancing across her lips. "You've got to be kidding me." She walked towards my desk, stopping 3 feet away as she took a pose with her hands on akimbo. "I'm going to go straight to the point," she started, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "I demand that I be transferred to the orthopedic department." I looked up at Elaine, my eyes narrowing slightly as I took in her confident demeanor. The pen I'd been holding snapped in half, the sound echoing through the silence. I set the broken pieces down on my desk, my gaze never leaving Elaine's face. "Is that so?" I said, my voice neutral. "And may I ask why you're requesting a transfer to orthopedics?" Elaine's smile grew wider, her eyes glinting with amusement. "Let's just say I've had enough of working with a certain someone," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "Bella's antics have made it clear that she's not capable of being a team player. I refuse to work in an environment where I'm constantly being undermined." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite myself. "I wasn't aware that Bella had been causing problems in the department," I said, my tone cautious. Elaine snorted. "Oh, please. You know exactly what I'm talking about. She's been making boastful claims about Xavier being her brother, trying to shove it down everybody's throat, placing herself on a high pedestal, making every other person feel less," she said, counting her fingers, and just as I opened my mouth to say something, she continued. "Oh," she said in fake realization, "and let's not forget that she has 3 other brothers, one of which is the alpha of Graywood Pack." She rolled her eyes, throwing her hands up in frustration. "Ugh, I hate that girl." I felt a surge of anger on Bella's behalf, but I pushed it down, keeping my expression neutral. "I'll look into it," I said finally. "But in the meantime, I'm not sure that transferring you to orthopedics is the solution. We need all hands on deck in the ER. Elaine's face fell, her smile disappearing. For a moment I saw a flash of something else in her eyes, something that looked almost like hatred. But then it was gone, replaced by her usual sly smile. "We'll see about that," she said, her voice dripping with malice. And with that, she turned and walked out of my office, leaving me feeling uneasy and more than a little concerned. I relaxed into my chair, thinking that the conversation with Elaine was finally over. But just as I was about to let out a sigh of relief, the door opened again and Elaine walked back in. "I almost forgot," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "I wanted to remind you of something, Kai." I raised an eyebrow, a sense of unease creeping over me. "What is it, Elaine?" Elaine's smile grew wider, her eyes glinting with triumph. "I wanted to remind you that you're betraying Mabel's memory by moving on with your life without a second thought." I felt a pang of guilt, and Elaine's words struck a nerve. "That's not fair, Elaine," I said, trying to keep my cool. But Elaine just laughed. "Oh, come on, Kai. You know it's true. You're just using Bella as a distraction from your guilt. You're trying to fill the void that Mabel left behind." I felt a surge of anger, but Elaine's words cut deep. I couldn't shake the feeling that she was right, that I was somehow betraying Mabel's memory by moving on. "And let's not forget," Elaine said, her voice dripping with malice, "Mabel died because of your negligence. You were supposed to be watching her, supposed to be taking care of her, but you failed." I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. Elaine's words were like a punch to the gut, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she was right. "Fine," I said finally, my voice barely above a whisper. "I'll transfer you to the orthopedic department." Elaine's smile grew wider, and she nodded in triumph. "I knew you'd see things my way," she said. "But there's one condition," I added, my eyes narrowing. "You stay away from Bella." Elaine's smile faltered for a moment, but then she nodded again. "I agree," she said. But as she turned and walked out of my office, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just made a deal with the devil. And for some reason, I didn't believe that Elaine would keep her end of the bargain. I sat at my desk, staring blankly at the papers in front of me. But my mind wasn't on work. It was still reeling from Elaine's words, her accusations echoing in my mind like a mantra. "You're betraying Mabel's memory. You're using Bella as a distraction from your guilt. Mabel died because of your negligence." I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, threatening to drown me. I couldn't shake the feeling that Elaine was right, that I was somehow responsible for Mabel's death. As I sat there, wallowing in my guilt, I came to a realization. Helping Mabel's friends and family, people like Elaine, was my atonement. It was the least I could do to make up for my negligence, my failure to save Mabel. I took a deep breath, feeling a sense of determination wash over me. I would do whatever it took to make things right, to honor Mabel's memory, even if it meant putting up with Elaine's manipulations and accusations. I pushed my chair back and stood up, feeling a sense of resolve that I hadn't felt in a long time. I would make things right, no matter what it took. I walked into the hospital cafeteria, scanning the room for a familiar face. My eyes landed on Bella and Xavier, sitting together at a table by the window. They were laughing and chatting, and for a moment, I just stood there watching them. I felt a pang of longing, wondering what it would be like to be the one sitting with her, laughing and chatting like they were. But I knew I couldn't just walk over there and join them, not after what had happened between us. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I should approach her, but something about the way she was smiling at Xavier made me feel like I had to try. I took a deep breath and walked over to their table. As I approached, Bella looked up and caught my eye. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the tension between us palpable. Then, without a word, Bella rose from her seat, her eyes flashing with anger and hurt. "I've lost my appetite," she announced, her voice cold and detached. Xavier looked up at her in concern, but Bella just shook her head and walked away, leaving me standing there feeling helpless and defeated. Xavier turned to me with disdain etched across his features, his words an angry bite. "You deserve everything that you are getting," he said, turning away from me without a second thought, as he headed in the same direction as Bella did. Xavier's words cut deep, and I felt a sting of shame and regret. I watched as he turned and walked away, leaving me standing alone in the cafeteria. The room seemed to grow quieter, the sounds of conversation and clinking dishes fading into the background as I stood there, frozen in my own thoughts. I felt trapped, like I was stuck in an endless loop of guilt and regret. I wasn't sure how to escape, how to break free from the weight of my own mistakes. Mabel's death, my feelings for Bella, Elaine's accusations, it all swirled together in my mind, a toxic mix of emotions that I couldn't seem to shake. I took a deep breath, trying to clear my head, but it was no use. I felt like I was drowning, like the weight of my own guilt was crushing me. I turned and walked away, leaving the cafeteria and its noise behind. I needed to get out of there, to find someplace quiet where I could try to make sense of my thoughts. But as I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking in circles, trapped in a never-ending cycle of regret and pain. Bella. I walked into Cora's hospital room, trying to reassure myself as much as her. She was lying in bed, looking pale and anxious, but she smiled weakly when she saw me. "Hey, kiddo," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm so glad you're here." I took her hand in mine, trying to infuse her with some of my own confidence. "Don't worry, Cora," I said. "The surgery is going to go great. The moon goddess will be watching over us, guiding the surgeon's hands." Cora smiled again, looking a little more at ease. "I trust you, Bella," she said. "I know you'll take care of me." Just then, the door swung open and Xavier walked in, a reassuring smile on his face. "Hey, Cora," he said. I couldn't help but overhear Bella's pep talk. "I have to agree, the surgery is going to go smoothly. We've got the best team on it, and we're all confident of a positive outcome." Cora looked at us both, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, both of you," she said. "I trust that I'm in safe hands. You go and get ready for the surgery. I'll be fine." Xavier nodded and turned to leave, but I hesitated for a moment, wanting to make sure Cora was really okay. But she just smiled and waved me away, so I followed Xavier out of the room, my heart filled with a mix of emotions: anxiety, hope, and determination. We scrubbed in and entered the operating room, where the rest of the surgical team was waiting for us. Cora was already anesthetized and prepped for surgery, and we quickly got to work. Xavier and I worked seamlessly together, our hands moving in tandem as we navigated the complexities of Cora's damaged heart. The hours ticked by, each one a steady beat of concentration and precision. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Xavier and I simultaneously confirmed that the toxins in Cora's body had been totally eradicated. We exchanged a brief, triumphant glance before refocusing on the task at hand. "We need to implant an adult cardiac assist device," Xavier said, his voice steady and calm. I nodded, feeling a slight flutter of nerves. This procedure wasn't an easy one, and there were always risks involved, but I trusted Xavier, and I trusted myself. We could do this. "Let's get started," I said, my voice firm and resolute. After what felt like an eternity, the device was finally inserted, and we closed Cora up. I let out a sigh of relief, thinking that the worst was behind us. But then, the machine monitoring Cora's vitals started beeping loudly, and my heart sank. I glanced up at the screen, my eyes scanning the numbers frantically. "Cora's heart rate is dropping," I exclaimed, panic rising up in my chest. Xavier's expression turned calm and focused. "Let's get some epinephrine in her stat," he ordered, his voice firm and authoritative. The team sprang into action, administering injections and adjusting the machines beeping around us. I watched in agony as Cora's heart rate continued to drop, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. But then, just as suddenly as it had started, the beeping slowed and Cora's heart rate began to climb back up to normal. The team let out a collective sigh of relief as Xavier turned to me with a reassuring smile. "She's going to be okay," he said, his eyes crinkling at the corners. I nodded, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. We'd done it. We'd saved Cora. As the tension in the operating room dissipated, Xavier and I turned to each other, overwhelmed with emotion. We hugged tightly, tears of joy streaming down my face. "We did it," I whispered, my voice trembling with excitement. Xavier pulled back, a wide smile spreading across his face. "We sure did," he said, his eyes shining with pride. "And I couldn't have done it without you, Bella. You're an incredible surgeon, and I'm honored to have worked alongside you." I felt a surge of gratitude towards Xavier, who had been a rock for me throughout this entire journey. "Thank you, Xavier," I said, my voice filled with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you either. You've been an amazing mentor and friend." As we hugged again, I felt a sense of pride and fulfillment wash over me. This was my dream come true, to go to medical school, to help treat my mother's heart disease, and to help others suffering from the same condition. And now, I was living it. The groundbreaking procedure quickly made headlines, and soon I was being hailed as a medical hero. I was interviewed live on TV, and as I read the comments scrolling across the screen, I felt a sense of pride and fulfillment. People were inspired by our work, and they were filled with hope for the future. I smiled, feeling a sense of joy and contentment wash over me. This was what it was all about, making a difference in people's lives and giving them hope for a better tomorrow. I was still basking in the glow of our medical triumph when a knock on the door interrupted my reverie. I looked up to see Kai standing in the doorway, a bright smile on his face. My mood instantly soured. I hadn't spoken to Kai since our argument, and I wasn't exactly thrilled to see him now. "What do you want?" I asked curtly, not bothering to hide my disdain. Kai's smile faltered for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "I came to invite you to a party," he said, his eyes shining with excitement. "We're celebrating the success of Cora's surgery." I scoffed. "You think I'd attend your party after what happened between us?" I asked incredulously. Kai's face fell, but I didn't care. I was still hurt and angry, and I didn't have time for his games. "Look, Kai, I'm not going to attend your party," I said bluntly. "I'll be staying by Cora's side until she's fully recovered. I don't have time for stupid parties." Kai's eyes flashed with hurt, but I didn't back down. "Please leave my office," I said coldly. "Your presence is suffocating me." Kai's face went white, and for a moment I thought he was going to argue. But then he turned and walked away, leaving me feeling relieved but also a little guilty. Just as Kai was about to leave, a young intern, Cash, walked into the office, bumping into Kai in the process. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Cash apologized, flashing a charming smile. Kai barely acknowledged the apology, his gaze still fixed on me. I felt a shiver run down my spine as our eyes locked, the tension between us palpable. "Cash, could you please close the door?" I asked, trying to break the spell. Cash nodded and turned to close the door, but not before I caught a glimpse of Kai's face. For a moment, I thought I saw a flash of jealousy in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by a mask of indifference. I chided myself, reminding myself that Kai was currently the least of my problems, and I should push whatever thing was brewing between us aside. "Bella." I ran my hand over my face, feeling a new wave of frustration. I felt uneasy even after I had chided myself to stop thinking about Kai. "May I have a seat?" Cash asked. I had almost totally forgotten that he was in the room. Still not looking up, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry. Please have a seat." As he shuffled as he sat, I looked up. Cash had not changed a teensy-weensy bit since that last time I saw him. I squinted my face in recognition as he smiled. Clearly he knew. I smiled back as I asked, "Oh my God, Cash, how are you?" "It's been so long, what, like a million years?" I laughed. "Yes, I've been good. And yes, it's been so long." He said the last part with a hint of sarcasm in his tone. "It's only been months since I graduated. How've you been?" He asked me as he smiled, his eyes twinkling with different emotions. "I've been good. I'm just curious as to why you've decided to come to New York, and most especially as the guise of an intern." I told him. He laughed, deep and throaty as I remembered. "How did you find me here?" I asked, genuinely curious. "I actually came to New York for a project, and I've been seeing you all over the news. I must say you have made a very big name for yourself," he said. I laughed at this, as I felt a sense of pride bubble inside of me. Was I that famous? I honestly didn't expect the amount of fame I was getting. It's beautiful, but I'm just surprised. Honestly, it's been really crazy how it blew up, and thank you. It means a lot. I smiled. Just then my phone rang, and I lifted my finger as a sign of excuse as I picked it up. "Hello, ma'am?" My secretary's voice boomed through the speaker as she spoke. Mr. Xavier would like to see you." I wasn't expecting that. Maybe he thought I was still pissed from the Kai issue. "Okay then. I'll be with him shortly. I have a guest." I told her and hung up. "Sorry about that," I told Cash as I watched him. As I locked eyes with him across the room, a rush of emotions flooded my chest. It had been a while since I last saw him, and the changes were undeniable. His charisma, for one. He seemed, and even looked, more confident than I had remembered. Those piercing blue eyes, however, remained unchanged, sparkling with warmth and kindness, like a familiar haven. "Oh, that's fine." He waved it off and leaned closer, drawing his chair closer to the table. "You look just as beautiful as I remember, Bella," he said, his voice toned low as he watched me, his eyes gleaming with an unseen emotion. I blushed a little. "Thank you, Cash. I can say the same for you. You haven't aged one bit." I knew he didn't miss the sarcasm when he laughed. "Bella, you know the feelings I've had for you, that never left. I'm still madly in love with you. It never left. I only never made advances because you were in a relationship at that time, but not now. I still love you, Bella," he said, his eyes watching me as I stared back. I knew he had feelings for me back in school, but I didn't know it was that serious. I was still dealing with this Kai issue, now this. I had never had feelings for Cash. Anything besides platonic was what I felt for him. Only one man had my heart, Kai. At this point, I don't even know what I feel for Kai anymore. Anger? Love? I was confused. I shook the thoughts of Kai off my mind as I stared at Cash. Thank you for your kind words, but I don't think I feel the same way about you, Cash," I said softly, trying to make him understand. He stared at me, his expression unchanging. Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I can change that, Bella. Let me show you," he said, unwilling to accept my verdict. "Cash, I'm serious. I don't feel the same way, and I'm not willing to be in any entitlement now." I snapped, now annoyed that he was pestering me. "I'm sorry. I'm not trying to force you. I just want you to give us a chance." "Okay, now I am pissed. Us? There is no us. Damn it. I'm the alpha of Ember Ridge Pack, and I know you would make a perfect Luna. We could manage the family business together. We could—" I rubbed my temples as I said, "Cash, there is no us, and please let's drop it." He raised his hands in mock surrender as he sighed. Okay, but can you attend the event I'm hosting with me? As an old friend?" he asked. I was definitely not going. Doesn't he get the memo? "I'm sorry, Cash, but I won't be going," I told him, keeping my voice as firm as possible. I wasn't dealing with this today. "Okay, no problem, but please make sure to visit my mum. You know how much she loves you?" Cash's mum had been a big part of my life back in school, always bringing extra food for me and stopping to see me whenever she came to see Cash. So yes, I love her. But I knew she was also going to make advances towards us, I and Cash. "Of course I'll see her whenever I have the time." He nodded and got up. "Well, it was nice seeing you, Bella. I'll be on the way now," he said as he took slow strides towards the door. "All right, Cash. It was nice seeing you too." He nodded. I sighed deep and long. I was exhausted. The newfound fame, not that I wasn't excited about it, it's exhausting. As I shuffled my files and put them on my desk, I suddenly remembered that I needed to see Xavier. I wonder what he wanted to tell me. I grabbed my bottle and chugged down the content of the water. I was thirsty. Making a mental note to refill the bottle, I stood. I took slow strides towards the door and headed to Xavier's office. The hospital was unusually quiet today, I noted as I walked down the lobby and reception area. I walked and got to Xavier's office. I knocked softly, "Come in." Xavier's soft voice rang across the room as I opened the door. I walked towards him as I pulled the chair and sat. "What's up?" I asked him, setting my phone on the table. I watched him drag his gaze lazily towards me, then he smiled. "I'm good, sissy. How about you?" he asked me, setting his laptop aside to face me, his face watching me keenly. "I'm good. Just had a meeting with Cash." "Who's Cash? And why does he have a weird-ass name?" Xavier let out a breathy laugh. "Well, Cash is a classmate from the university." I explained and Xavier nodded. "And guess what he came to tell me?" I told him, moving my hands for emphasis. "What?" He laughed, clearly amused. "Well, he came to confess his undying love to me. Since university, I can't even believe it." I told him and he laughed, throwing his head back in the process. "Wow. Well, I'm not shocked. Who wouldn't love my precious baby sister? See you, beauty and brains. Anybody that loses you has a loss," he said, his voice suddenly serious as he drew his chair forward. I felt that. I knew he was trying to cheer me up from Kai, but I still felt that longing, that agitation. I'm so confused. I faked a smile. Yes, their loss. So, tell me why you called." He closed his eyes and sighed. "So I've been thinking a lot, actually, and I think that it's best I leave New York and try life somewheres when Cora gets better. I mean, I love my life here and all, but I just want to try life outside. You get it?" I nodded as I felt tears sting at the back of my head. I love Xavier and I'm happy for him, but I can't just imagine the hospital or life without him. He's been there for me, my shield. Yes, I get it." I sniffled and smiled at him. I totally understood. He was here at Kai's behest and now it was time for him to leave. "Aw, don't cry, sissy. You know I won't be gone forever." He stood and walked towards me, engulfing me in an embrace. I relaxed in his embrace and sighed. I really was tired. He pulled back and pressed a kiss on my forehead. "I'll always be here for you, Bella. I love you so much." He smiled, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know, and I love you more." Just as he was about to hug me back, his phone rang, and he hugged me briefly and walked towards the phone. "Hello?" I shunned him out, as I thought about how I was going to get over this hospital on my own, especially with the Kai issue. "Bella, I'll see you later. I have a meeting." He pressed another quick kiss on my forehead, and he picked his phone, laptop, and walked out. I stepped out of my brother's office, the heavy door thudding shut behind me. The soft click of the lock echoed through the hallway, a stark reminder of the emotional fortress I'd just left. Exhaustion weighed me down, my shoulders sagging under the burden of unshed tears. Frustration simmered, threatening to boil over as I trudged toward the stairs. I paused on the landing, bracing myself against the railing. The elegant chandelier above cast an unforgiving glare, illuminating the tears welling up in my eyes. Memories flooded my mind. In the very little time I've gotten to spend with Xavier, there's just been so much. Late-night conversations and whispered secrets. I never imagined I'd have to say goodbye so soon. I headed to Cora's room, but she was fast asleep. I checked her vitals, and she was doing pretty well. I'm glad that I got the chance to save my mother's life, and it's all thanks to Xavier. I settled down in the chair beside her bed, picking up a book from one of her drawers as I intended to spend the night there. Suddenly, a feeling of unease enveloped me. Something felt wrong. There was a looming feeling in the room, but I couldn't place my finger on it. I searched the room, opened the bathrooms, and found nothing. I peeked through the windows, still nothing. I took a deep breath, heading towards the door. I turned the knob and pulled it open, revealing Kai in the most distraught state ever. He was drunk for starters, his hair disheveled and wet, framing his droopy eyes. He was wearing a white shirt that wasn't so white anymore, one of the sleeves rolled up above his elbow, his tie sagging, and he could barely stand on his own 2 feet. "What the hell are you doing here? And drunk?" I was appalled. He took a step towards me with his hand reaching out, but like he contemplated it, he dropped his hand and took a step back. "Are you even real? Or are you just a figment of my imagination?" he asked, and I felt my chest dip. "Kay, I threw this party for her sake, to somehow get her to be in the same room as me even if she wouldn't talk to me. But she downrightly refused my invitation, calling it a stupid party. Yes, I was that desperate that I would try any trick, do anything to get her to talk to me at least. I wanted to apologize. That's all you have been doing since she came into your life. Literally. My wolf mocked me. It wasn't wrong. How I have managed to hurt her countlessly. I had no idea. It always just happened before I realized. It's because you never really made her a priority. My wolf wasn't wrong. I even prioritized Elaine over her the other day. I hurt her feelings so badly. Fuck. I took another gulp, emptying the glass before sliding it to the bartender, silently asking for a refill. He gave me a skeptical look, but he said nothing, instead pouring another drink for me. As I took another gulp, the image of that man walking into her office flooded my mind. Cash. He was the new alpha of Eclipse Ridge Pack. What the fuck was he doing in Bella's office? How did they know each other? Has Bella moved in from me so fast? Was it so easy to move on from me that she did it in a couple of days? Well, I think you must have underestimated how much you hurt her. My wolf sneered, and this time I had actually had enough of it. If you can't help me, I'd rather you shut up. I snapped, downing the remaining contents of my glass, asking for another refill. My life was falling apart. I missed Bella. I missed her too much. And every single time I tried to get her to hang out with me, she turned me down blunty and emotionlessly. And when our eyes connected, I felt that spark that only she was able to reignite in me. I felt my heart skip a few beats, but I must have been delusional because the next string of words she spoke sent a bullet to my chest. "Cash, could you please close the door?" Ugh, I took a swig from my glass before gulping down all of it. "I don't think you'd be able to walk to the parking lot in this state." I didn't have to look up to Ki who was speaking. That shrill voice was now accustomed to my memory against my will. She was everywhere, like a pest in my life that has refused to leave. "Because you never chased her away." My wolf added, and yes, it didn't lie. I've always felt indebted to Elaine. She reminded me at every chance that she got that Mabel died because of my negligence, and that was enough for me to fulfill all her wishes. Until that moment when Bella walked away from me. The memory caused a pain to surge through me. "What the fuck do you want now?" I asked, finally looking up at her. The familiar, deceitful face with blonde hair just like Mabel's and red lips just like Mabel's. Now that I think about it, Elaine never had blonde hair until after Mabel's death. Was this a scheme to... How could I have been so blind? She took a seat near to me. "You know Cash? The alpha of Eclipse Ridge Pack? No matter how much I've tried to get to him, he's been so uninterested." Of course he was uninterested. He's interested in my mate, my fucking mate, the audacity. And although I had no idea why Elaine was telling me any of this, I didn't ask her to shut up, yet. He's been lolling around Bella like a pest. She seemed very pained by the fact. Well, finally something we both could agree on. "I wonder what you all see in Bella," she scoffed, taking a sip of her drink. "I don't see how any of this is my problem," I told her. "Well, technically it isn't, but you might have a solution to my problem," she said, a coy smile spread across her lips. "I have a solution to your problem?" I asked, the absurdity of the statement causing my stomach to churn. "And what might that be, Elaine?" I bobbed my head to the side. The corners of her lips raised in a wicked smile. "A bag from Louis Vuitton. It was just launched a few weeks ago. That's what I want." Of course, the extortion. Unfortunately, the blindfold had been removed, and I can now see through her manipulation. "No," I simply replied. "You can't refuse me, Kai. I am Mabel's best friend, and she would do this much for me. But she isn't here now because of your negligence." She feigned hurt as usual, her lips turned downwards, batting her eyelashes that were as fake as her compassion for Mabel. I had had enough. "Exactly. You are Mabel's best friend, not mine. I have no obligation to give you anything. You have already extorted enough from me. I think it's best you disappear from my life before I make you." I raised my voice. "This is because of Bella, isn't it?" she asked, and I hissed. "I have no idea what you see in her. She's so different from Mabel, even. This isn't about Bella, and I can now see why you've made yourself into a wannabe Mabel. Too bad for you. I can now see through your facade, and it would be nice if you would just leave with the dignity you have left, or I can just ask security to throw you out." I replied, my tone daunting. She huffed, stood up, and walked away. My mind wandered back to Bella. I had to make things right with her. Somehow. Anyhow, she didn't deserve what I had put her through. Of course she felt she was just a rebound. I prioritized Elaine over her. I was so blind, I didn't want to see the truth. I pulled out my phone and texted my driver to bring the car around. I needed to go to Bella. I needed to see her, to apologize, anything before it was too late. "Bella, what the hell are you doing here, and drunk?" I was appalled. He took a step towards me with his hand reaching out, but like he contemplated it, he dropped his hand and took a step back. "Are you even real, or are you just a figment of my imagination?" he asked, and I felt my chest dip. He was drunk to stupor, barely able to stand on his own 2 feet. "What are you doing here, Kai?" I repeated. He placed his right hand on the doorframe to steady himself, his droopy eyes peering into mine. "I threw a party to celebrate your success. You refused my invitation." "I'm busy here at the hospital, Kai. I don't have time to party," I said, holding his gaze. "It's past your working hours." He was right. I wanted to stay by Cora's side tonight, but I really can't leave Kai to go home by himself in this state. "Did you drive?" I asked, bobbing my head to the side. He shook his head no. "I think I came with the driver." "You think?" I almost laughed out loud at the absurdity. I turned around to see Cora still sleeping peacefully, and a ghost smile touched my lips. I exited the room and shut the door. "Let's go," I said, and we walked out and into the parking lot. His driver was present. I helped him into the back seat before joining him. Throughout the ride, I tried to get him a bit sober, giving him water to drink and getting him to talk continuously. Soon, the vehicle rolled slowly to a stop. I walked with him to his room, noticing how his staggering wasn't so bad anymore. He sat on the bed, pulling me until I was standing between his legs. "Hey," he said in a whisper-like voice. His hair was damp, framing his eyes. He watched me from beneath his long lashes, a small smile playing on his lips. "Hi." I replied, the corners of my lips threatening to tilt up in a smile of my own. Thank you, he said, and when I raised a brow in confusion, he added, for bringing me home. I couldn't leave you there like that, I replied. And I'm sorry, he said. I knew where this was going. I could feel the atmosphere and the air shift. I wasn't sure if I wanted to talk about it, but I kept quiet either way. He then caressed my shoulders, placing a kiss on either of them. I know I haven't been the best husband to you, Bella. The way he called himself my husband made my stomach jittery. The air in the atmosphere was thick with sexual tension. We could both feel it. I shouldn't be entertaining this, but I couldn't help it. I know that you would rather be anywhere else but here with me. He was wrong, and I deserve it. But I love you. I love you. I felt a spark of electricity surge through my entirety. I love you, and it kills me that you hate me so much. I can't bear to be away from you. It hurts me deeply that you don't want to be around me. Yes, I've made mistakes, and I'm willing to right all the wrongs if it means being with you. I can't name the emotion that was swelling in me. The knots in my stomach tightened, goosebumps sprouting in my skin. He was being sincere, my wolf could tell. I love you so much, Bella. I wish you'd understand just how much I love you. He dropped his head in the crook of my neck, sniffing in my scent. I turned myself to the side a bit, and when he raised his head from my neck, I crashed my lips against his. When he wasn't kissing me back, I felt embarrassment wash over me and started to pull away. He stopped me with a grip on my waist. Are we doing this? He whispered against my lips, his eyes searching mine. I shouldn't be doing this, but with the wetness coating my thighs, I couldn't refuse even when I knew I should. So I nodded, deciding to take the night as a one-night stand. Bella. I stirred in my sleep and turned. The air smelled different from the lavender scent I normally woke up to. Where was I? Opening my eyes slowly, I immediately squinted my eyes, the light from the windows temporarily invading my vision. I opened my eyes slowly and turned my head. Flashes from yesterday night came flooding back. I willed myself to move and face Kai. His upper body lay naked against me. I couldn't resist. I held my hand out and rubbed his chest, tracing the lines on his chest, the firm chest, abs. Kai moved and I stopped. Why'd you stop? Continue, I like it, he said, his voice husky from sleep. His breath fanned my face, the faint smell of mint and alcohol. He took my hand and placed it back on his chest, guiding me to touch him, moving his hand lower until I touched his defined V-line. I abruptly stood up from the bed, as if it disgusted me. I didn't know what I was thinking of getting myself involved with Kai. I didn't need my emotions revolving all over again. Well, you basically threw yourself at him. My wolf mocked me. How could I have been so stupid? I was still dealing with the feelings I had for him, now this. Having sex with Kai meant that my feelings would evolve back. Fuck! The mattress dipped lower as Kai sat up. Babe, what happened? Kai asked me, raising his hands to touch me. I shifted and stood. I needed to clear this up. I don't need this. Kai, I started, his face stoic as he watched me. I know we agreed that sex was going to be a thing between us, but I don't think I want to do this anymore. Bella, he started, but I raised my palm, cutting him off. I don't want to do this back and forth thing with you anymore. Just assume what happened last night was a one-night stand. His face fell. I took deep breaths. Every time I got intimate with Kai, the broken bond started to recuperate. I needed to recover so I could get over and done with this. I can't deal with this. First, Xavier moving. Now this? Not in the slightest. I stood frozen, my eyes fixed on the man who now knelt before me. His hands grasped my hips, his fingers digging into my skin as if desperate to hold on, not enough to mark my skin. Please, he whispered, his voice cracking with desperation. Just one time. I promise I'll never ask again. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I gazed into his pleading eyes. The memory of his lips on mine, the warmth of his body against mine, still lingered. But I knew I couldn't give in. I said no, I repeated, trying to keep my voice firm. He looked up at me, his face twisted in a mixture of pain and longing. Why not? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought we had a connection. I thought you felt it too. I took a step back, trying to create some distance between us. I do feel something, I admitted, but I don't want it, Kai. He looked crestfallen, his eyes welling up with tears. Please, he whispered again, his hands grasping for mine. Don't reject me. I need you. My heart ached at the desperation in his voice, but I knew I had to stand firm. I gently pulled my hands free and took another step back. I'm sorry, I said softly, but I mean it. I deserve better. He sniffled. I know that I have been the best for you, Bella, but I need you. I can't do without you. I love you. I really do. I have even fired Elaine, and I swear I won't let anybody get between us anymore. His voice cracked with each word he uttered. With a heavy heart, I stood up, looked away, and said, It's best we leave it at this. It can't work. I turned and picked my dress. Once I got into the bathroom, I opened the shower, allowing the cool feel trickle down my skin. I picked the sponge and scrubbed my body, desperately trying to remove the lingering smell of Kai. As soon as I turned off the tap, I stepped out of the tub. Eagerly ready to leave, I picked my dress and slipped into it. I stepped out of the bathroom, the warm glow of the candles and the soft music enveloping me like a gentle hug. But my heart remained heavy, weighed down by the weight of our crumbling relationship. He stood in the doorway, his eyes pleading, his voice barely above a whisper. Please don't go. Don't leave me. I'll do anything. Just don't leave. I felt a pang in my chest, my resolve wavering. I had been so sure, so convinced that it was over between us. But now, looking into his desperate eyes, I felt my heart soften. Please, he whispered again, taking a step closer to me. I love you. I'll do anything to make it work. I felt my lips tremble, my voice caught in my throat. I was so close to giving in, to forgiving him and trying again. But just as I was about to speak, my phone rang, shrill and insistent. I hesitated, my eyes locked on his, as the ringtone cut through the tension like a knife. He took another step closer, his eyes begging me to ignore the call. But I knew I couldn't. I knew I had to answer it, had to break the spell that had almost convinced me to stay. With a heavy heart, I turned away from him and reached for my phone. As I answered the call, he whispered one final plea. Don't go. Please don't go. But it was too late. The moment was broken, and I knew I had to walk away. As I stepped outside the house, I let out a deep sigh and reached for my phone. Xavier, why was he calling me? I stood in the dimly lit hallway, my phone pressed to my ear as I listened to my brother's words. She's awake, sis. Cora's awake. A mix of emotions swirled inside me, relief, joy, and a hint of trepidation. I had been waiting for this moment for so long, and yet I couldn't shake off the feeling of uncertainty that lingered within me. As I processed the news, my mind wandered back to Kai and the intense emotions that still lingered between us. The way he had begged me to stay, the desperation in his eyes, it all still felt so raw. My brother's voice cut through my thoughts, bringing me back to the present. Sis, are you okay? You're not saying anything. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself. I'm fine, bro. I'm just processing. How is she? How's Cora doing? My brother's voice filled with emotion as he replied, She's weak, but she's awake. She's going to be okay. I felt a lump form in my throat as I processed the news. My mom, the woman who had always been my rock, my confidant, she is going to be okay. But as I stood there, phone still pressed to my ear, I couldn't shake off the feeling that my heart was still torn. Torn between the love and concern I felt for my mom and the lingering emotions I still had for Kai. I took another deep breath, trying to clear my head. I knew I had to focus on my mom right now. But as I hung up the phone and turned to head back to my car, I couldn't help but wonder, what would happen with Kai now? I stepped into the hospital, the familiar scent of antiseptic and the hum of machinery enveloping me like a warm hug. But despite the comforting surroundings, my heart remained heavy, weighed down by the lingering emotions of my encounter with Kai. As I made my way to the ICU, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach. I had thought that the news of my mom's awakening would be enough to push aside my concerns about Kai, but it seemed that my heart was still torn. I pushed open the door to the ICU, and my brother looked up from the chart he was reviewing. His eyes met mine, and I knew immediately that he could see the turmoil brewing inside me. Hey sis, he said, his voice soft with concern. How are you doing? I forced a smile, trying to brush off my emotions. I'm fine, just worried about her. But my brother wasn't buying it. He set the chart down and walked over to me, his eyes scanning my face. No, you're not fine, he said gently. What's going on? You look like you've been through a war. I sighed, feeling a lump form in my throat. My brother knew me too well. I couldn't hide anything from him. It's just Kai, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My brother's expression turned sympathetic. What happened? I shook my head, feeling a mix of emotions swirl inside me. I don't know, Xavier. I just feel so torn. I care about him, but I'm not sure if I can trust him. My brother nodded, his eyes filled with understanding. You'll figure it out, sis, but for now, let's focus on Cora. She needs us. I nodded, feeling a sense of determination wash over me. My brother was right. My mother needed me, and I couldn't let my personal issues get in the way of being there for her. Together, my brother and I walked over to my Cora's bedside, our faces set with determination. We would get through this together. I stood frozen in the doorway, my eyes fixed on the frail figure lying in the hospital bed. My mom's eyes, once bright and sparkling, now seemed sunken and tired, surrounded by dark circles. Well, she looked a lot better than she did before the surgery. That was a good thing. My brother's hand on my shoulder brought me back to reality. Go ahead, he whispered. She's been waiting for you. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, my heart pounding in my chest. As I approached the bed, my mom's eyes flickered open and she smiled weakly. Hey, sweetie, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Tears streamed down my face as I reached out to take her hand. It felt fragile and thin, but it was still warm, still alive. Mom, I whispered, my voice shaking. I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner. My mom's eyes filled with tears, and she squeezed my hand weakly. You're here now, sweetie, she whispered. That's all that matters. My brother's voice broke the silence, his words soft and gentle. We're going to take care of you. We're going to get you through this. Cora's eyes drifted to my brother, and she smiled again, this time with a hint of strength. I know you will, sweethearts, she whispered. I know you will. Bella, you've been through so much, Mum, more than anyone should have to endure, but you're here. You made it through, and I couldn't be prouder of you. Cora smiled faintly. I wouldn't have made it without you, or Xavier. You've been my anchor through this storm, and now that it's over, I feel like I can finally breathe again. My gaze softened. I reached out and took Cora's hand gently, squeezing it. It's not over, it's just the beginning. You've earned this freedom. So, what's next? Her smile widened, and for a moment she looked as though she were already imagining herself far away from here. I want to travel. I want to see the world, to visit places I only ever saw in pictures or read about in books. Paris, Rome, Tokyo, New Zealand. Her voice was light with excitement, as though the weight of her past had finally lifted from her shoulders. The divorce settlement is enough to fund it all, and I'm not going to waste a single cent. This is my second chance, Bella. Hearing the joy in Cora's voice brought tears to my eyes. I've never heard her sound so alive, so free. You deserve this, Mum. You deserve all the happiness in the world. Cora's expression softened as she glanced at me. And so do you, Bella. I looked away, my smile faltering just slightly. I knew what my mother meant, even if the words remained unspoken. Her voice grew quieter. Bella, I want to say something before I leave this hospital. It's been on my mind for a while. I looked back at her, curious. What is it? She hesitated for a moment, choosing her words carefully. You're strong, Bella. You always have been. I admire you for it. But sometimes strength can become a shield. My forehead creased slightly in a frown, not sure where this was going. A shield? Yes. Her gaze held mine, unwavering. You've been through so much. Olive, your mother, and Layla didn't always treat you the way you deserved. I know how much that hurt you. But Bella, holding on to that hurt, it's like carrying a stone in your pocket. You don't realize how heavy it is until you let it go. My expression tensed. It's not that simple, Mum. I know it's not, she cooed softly. But think about this. Luna Olive cried when you arrived in New York, didn't she? She stood up for you, had those women thrown out of the store for mocking you. She may not have been perfect, but that doesn't mean she didn't care. And Layla... Cora hesitated, watching me carefully. Olive favored Layla because Layla knew how to play weak. But Bella, you're not weak. You've always been strong, so strong that maybe they didn't see your needs the way they should have. That's not your fault. But maybe, just maybe, they didn't mean to ignore you. My chest tightened. The words struck something deep inside me, a place I had kept locked away for years. I vividly remembered that day when I had first stepped into Luna Olive's arms in New York. The tears that had fallen so freely from Luna Olive's eyes, the way she had held my face as if trying to memorize every inch of it. I had dismissed it as guilt at the time, guilt for abandoning her. But what if there had been something more? "Why are you bringing this up now?" I asked, my voice quieter than before. "Because I want you to heal, Bella," Cora said softly. "Not just survive, heal. You've spent so long carrying the weight of the past, and it's not fair to you. It's okay to let your guard down sometimes. It's okay to need people, even people who have hurt you." I swallowed hard, my fingers twisting the hem of my sleeve. "And what if I let them in and it hurts all over again?" Cora's gaze softened, full of compassion. "Then you'll be strong enough to handle it, because that's who you are, Bella. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find the answers you've been searching for. Sometimes people don't know how to love us the way we need, but that doesn't mean they don't love us at all." I looked down at her lap, processing Cora's words. They were hard to hear, but they struck a chord. The idea of reconnecting with Luna Olive, or even Layla, felt impossible. And yet, for the first time in forever, I found herself wondering what it would be like to try. "Just think about it," Cora added gently. "You don't have to decide anything right now." I exhaled shakily and nodded. "I will, I promise." Cora smiled, squeezing her hand once more. "Good, that's all I ask." The estate shone with fairy lights and candles as we celebrated Cora's recovery. My brothers and I had planned the perfect party. When Cora arrived, she took our breath away in a stunning midnight blue dress. "You look beautiful, Mom," I said, beaming with pride. Cora beamed, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, sweetie, and thank you for all of this." She glanced around at the room, at my brothers who stood off to the side, clearly proud of themselves. "You all really didn't have to do this." Hunter grinned, folding his arms over his chest. "Of course we did. You've done more for us than we can ever repay. This is the least we could do." "Besides," Lennon added with a playful smirk, "Xavier was determined to see you in that dress. He practically dragged us all to the boutique." Xavier shot him a glare but didn't deny it. "It was worth it." Cora laughed, the sound light and full of life. "Well, thank you. All of you. I feel special tonight, and I haven't felt that way in a long time." Dinner was served soon after, and the atmosphere was warm and lively. The table filled with laughter and stories, with the quadruplets taking turns teasing each other in their usual way. I found myself smiling more than I had in weeks as she watched Cora laugh alongside them, her cheeks flushed with joy. Halfway through the meal, Dylan raised his glass, and the table fell quiet. "To Cora," he said, his voice steady but full of emotion, "you've been like family to us. What you did, the sacrifices you made to help us, didn't go unnoticed. You've been strong when many would have crumbled, and tonight is about celebrating you. Your freedom, your courage, and your future." To Cora. The room echoed with a chorus of "To Cora" as everyone raised their glasses. Cora's eyes glistened as she blinked her glass with the others, her smile wavering just slightly as emotions threatened to overwhelm her. "Thank you," she said softly, setting her glass down. "I don't think I'll ever find the right words to express how much this means to me. For a long time, I felt like I was walking through life alone. But then I met all of you. You showed me that I wasn't alone, that I didn't have to be." Xavier leaned forward, his tone firm but kind. "You'll never be alone again, Cora. You have us now, and that's not changing." Hunter grinned, lightening the mood as he added, "Exactly. Whether you like it or not, you're stuck with us." Cora's laughter filled the room as she dabbed away tears. I beamed with pride, witnessing her transformation from a broken woman to a strong, free spirit. After dinner, we gathered around the fireplace, surrounded by soft music and warmth, as my brothers teased and chatted with Cora about her future travels. "Rome is a must," Lennon said, leaning back in his chair. "The Colosseum, the food, it's all unforgettable." "Paris," Ralph chimed in. "Cliché or not, it's the city of love. You'll feel like you're in a movie." "I heard New Zealand is incredible," Hunter said with enthusiasm. "You could explore those mountains and lakes for days." Xavier, ever the calm voice of reason, added, "Tokyo. It's beautiful, and it's unlike anywhere else you'll go. the culture, the technology. You'd love it. Cora listened to each of them, her face alight with excitement as she made mental notes. I smiled softly from the corner, content to observe. I hadn't seen my mother this animated in years. Eventually, Cora's attention turned back to me as I nursed a cup of tea by the fire. "Bella, what about you?" I blinked, surprised. "What about me?" Cora tilted her head, her smile knowing. "What's on your list? If you could go anywhere, where would it be?" I hesitated, my fingers tightening around her cup. "I don't know. I've never really thought about it." Cora frowned slightly. "Why not? You should dream, Bella. You deserve to." I opened my mouth to respond, but couldn't find the words. It wasn't that I didn't want to travel, but I had spent so long focused on surviving, on holding myself together, that dreams of far-off places had never felt within reach. "You'll figure it out," Cora said softly, as if reading her thoughts. "One day." The room grew quieter after a while, as the fire crackled, the conversation drifting into a comfortable lull. It was then that Cora spoke again, this time addressing me with a more serious tone. "Bella," she said gently, "have you thought about what we talked about at the hospital?" I froze, her gaze flickering toward her. I didn't need clarification to know what Cora meant, and I kinda wished she would let it go for one night. Tonight was about her. "I've thought about it," I admitted quietly, "but I'm not sure I can do it." I sighed deeply, my shoulders sagging. "I don't know if I'm ready." Cora smiled faintly. "You don't have to be ready tonight. Just promise me you'll think about it." I met her gaze, seeing the unwavering support in her eyes. "I promise." Later that evening, when the party had wound down and the quadruplets were cleaning up, Cora and I stepped out onto the balcony that overlooked the estate gardens. The night was cool, the air crisp and fragrant with the scent of flowers carried on the breeze. The sky stretched endlessly above them, glittering with stars. Cora leaned against the railing, closing her eyes for a moment as she breathed in deeply. I forgot how beautiful the night could be. I stood beside her, wrapping my arms around myself for warmth. "It is beautiful." Cora opened her eyes, glancing over at her. "You know, Bella, I'm really going to miss you when I leave." I looked at her sharply. "You're not leaving forever. You'll be back." "Maybe," Cora replied softly. "But this is the next chapter of my life. It's something I need to do on my own. You'll always be in my heart, Bella. You and the boys." I swallowed the lump in my throat, forcing a smile. "Well, I'll expect postcards. Lots of them." Cora laughed, the sound light and genuine. "Deal." We stood in silence for a moment, watching as the wind rustled the leaves of the trees below. Finally I spoke, my voice soft. "Do you think it's really possible to forgive?" Cora turned toward me, her gaze steady. "I think forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting what happened. It means letting go of the power it holds over you. It means choosing to move forward instead of staying stuck in the past." I was quiet as I considered this. I wanted to believe it was possible. I wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, Luna Olive and Layla could be more than the shadows they had become in her mind. "I'll try," I whispered, promising myself as much as Cora. "I'll try." Cora smiled, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "That's all you need to do." We stayed there on the balcony for a while longer, the stars watching over us like silent guardians. I didn't know what the future would hold, but for the first time in years I felt something stir inside her, a flicker of hope. Cora would travel the world, finding herself in far-off places and foreign cities, and I, perhaps, would begin my own journey too. Not to distant lands, but to the places inside myself that I had avoided for so long. Tonight was about celebration. Tomorrow will be about healing. Bella. I stood in the car park, my eyes fixed on Cora as I hugged her tightly. "I'm going to miss you so much," I whispered, my voice shaking with emotion. Cora's arms wrapped around me, holding me close. "I'll miss you too, Bella, but you need to take care of yourself, okay? And don't forget what I told you." I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. Cora was returning back to Moonlight Pack, and it hurt me to see her leave after everything she's had to endure from Gray. But she needed to go to finalize the rejection. "Take care of yourself too," I replied as we pulled away from each other, tears blurring my vision. I looked up at Xavier and Lennon. They were taking Cora back to make sure she got there safely. I couldn't be more grateful. I smiled, muttering a small thank you. Xavier smiled back, and Lennon nodded. Xavier took a few steps towards me, and I saw a flicker of concern in his eyes. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart skipping a beat. Xavier's expression smoothed out, but I could sense the tension beneath. "You're returning home. I just want to make sure you're okay. You know, after the last time you were there, I just want to make sure you're good." It was a whole lot, but I knew if I thought too deeply about it, I might change my mind about returning to the pack house. I nodded, but the sense of unease lingered. As I turned to leave, I felt Xavier's hand on my arm, holding me back. "Bella?" he said, his voice low and serious. I turned back to him, my heart pounding in my chest. "What?" Xavier's eyes locked on mine, his expression intense. "Be careful, okay? Just be careful." "Shall we leave now?" Hunter called out, and I nodded, walking to the car with Ralph and Hunter walking on either side of me. The drive was calm, peaceful, and quite humorous, as Ralph kept throwing jabs at Hunter for leaning against me as he took naps in between the rides. The latter could care less, pretending not to hear Ralph's irritation at his actions. The car came to an abrupt stop, pulling me from my light sleep. Ralph pushed the door, and he stepped out. As I stepped out of the car, my legs trembling beneath me. The cool evening air hit me like a slap in the face, but I barely registered it. I was numb, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster I'd been on. The goodbye with Cora still lingered in my mind, the weight of Xavier's concern and my own uncertainty settling heavy in my chest. And now, as I stood outside my family's estate, I felt a sense of dread wash over me. I didn't want to go back to this place, to face the drama and tension that always seemed to simmer just below the surface. But I knew I had to. I had to confront whatever was waiting for me, no matter how exhausting it might be. I took a deep breath, the sound of the car door closing behind me, echoing through the stillness. I felt like I was stepping into a war zone, my heart heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead. Just as though Hunter could sense the turmoil inside me, he took my hand in his protectively, flashing me a small smile. With a sense of resignation, I began to walk towards the house, my feet carrying me forward even as my heart screamed to turn back. As I stepped inside the mansion, I was immediately enveloped in a world of opulence and grandeur. The interior was a masterclass in luxury, with every detail meticulously designed to exude wealth and sophistication. The foyer was a sprawling space with a soaring ceiling, adorned with intricate moldings and glittering crystal chandeliers. The walls were painted a soft, creamy white, and the floors were made of polished marble that seemed to glow in the soft light. To my left, a sweeping staircase curved upward, its banister adorned with delicate carvings of flowers and vines. The stairs seemed to disappear into the clouds, giving the impression of a fairy tale palace. The walls were adorned with priceless works of art, including paintings by famous masters and rare tapestries. The furniture was equally impressive, with plush sofas and armchairs upholstered in rich velvet and silk. As I made my way deeper into the mansion, I caught glimpses of the various rooms that branched off from the foyer. There was a formal dining room with a long, polished table and chairs upholstered in red leather, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a cozy reading nook, and a music room with a grand piano and a collection of rare musical instruments. Everywhere I looked, I saw evidence of my family's wealth and status. The mansion was a testament to our power and influence, a symbol of the luxury and privilege that came with being a member of the Ashwood Parks enterprises. But despite the opulence that surrounded me, I couldn't shake the feeling of emptiness and disconnection. The mansion was a beautiful shell, but it was devoid of warmth and love. It was a reminder that wealth and status weren't everything, and that sometimes the most valuable things in life were the ones that couldn't be bought or sold. As I stepped into the grand foyer of our mansion, I felt a mix of emotions swirling inside me. The opulent chandelier above cast a warm glow, illuminating the familiar yet daunting space. I took a deep breath, my eyes adjusting to the sudden change from the bright outdoors. Just as I was taking in the lavish surroundings, I heard the soft rustle of silk fabrics. I turned to see my mother Luna gliding into the foyer with her signature elegance. Her silver hair cascaded down her back like a river of moonlight, and her warm smile lit up the space. "Bella, darling," she exclaimed, her voice like music. "Welcome home." I smiled, feeling a wave of relief wash over me. Even though she was practically acting like we didn't have a huge argument before I left the house, I walked towards her, and she opened her arms, enveloping me in a warm hug. "I've missed you so much, sweetie," she whispered, her voice filled with love. "How was your journey?" I hugged her back, feeling a sense of comfort and security. "It was long, but I'm home now," I replied, my voice muffled against her shoulder. Luna pulled back, her eyes scanning my face with concern. "You look a bit tired, dear. Are you okay?" I nodded, forcing a smile. "I'm fine, Mom, just a bit exhausted." Luna's expression softened, and she stroked my cheek. "Well, you're home now, and you can rest. I'll have Maria prepare your favorite dinner, and we can catch up later." As I stood in the foyer with my mother, I heard the sound of laughter and chatter coming from the hallway. My mother's eyes flicked towards the noise, and a hint of a smile played on her lips. "Ah, it seems we have company," she said, her voice neutral. I turned to see Layla, walking into the foyer with her boyfriend, Alexander. Layla was a vision of perfection, her long hair cascading down her back like a golden waterfall. Her bright blue eyes sparkled with amusement, and her full lips curled into a sly smile. Alexander, on the other hand, was a tall, brooding figure he always was, with piercing brown eyes and chiseled features. He looked like he had just stepped out of a fashion magazine, and his confident stride commanded attention. Yet their presence irritated me way too much than I'd like to admit. "Hey, Luna," Layla said, air-kissing my mother's cheek. I forced a smile, feeling a twinge of resentment towards Layla's fake warmth. "Hey, Layla, Alexander." Alexander's eyes locked onto mine, and for a moment I felt like he could see right through me. I shivered, despite myself, and looked away. Layla, oblivious to the tension, or not, continued to chat with my mother, discussing everything from the latest fashion trends to their upcoming wedding plans. I stood there, feeling like an outsider, as they laughed and joked together. I watched as she demanded things that were worth millions, and my mother practically agreed to give them to her. No questions asked. I couldn't help but feel like I was stuck on the outside, looking in. Like I was a ghost hovering on the fringes of their perfect little world. "It's okay to be jealous, Bella. I know you always wanted this life, but kissing the asses of the quadruplet brothers and being their mistress don't give you as much wealth as Layla is entitled to." Alexander sneered, and I looked at my mother, waiting for her to say something. She didn't. Layla also stood there with a proud smile on her lips. "I'm lucky that I didn't get to marry you. Instead, I'm getting married to the heiress of the prestigious Ashwood Pack." His voice held so much pride, and he looked at Layla with admiration, the latter basking in all of it. "With all due respect, sister, you know that Bella is the heiress to the Ashwood Pack and its enterprises," Ralph said as he walked in, his eyes locked on Layla's. I felt a surge of emotions as I watched the exchange. Layla's eyes narrowed, her face twisted in a scowl. Alexandra shifted uncomfortably beside her, his eyes darting back and forth between Layla and me. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing inside me. I had just returned from a long journey, seeking healing and solace after a difficult time. The last thing I needed was this drama. Layla's voice cut through the tension, her words dripping with malice. "What's that supposed to mean, Ralph? That Bella's better than me?" Ralph's expression remained calm, but I could sense the underlying tension. "It means that Bella has a responsibility to the family business, Layla, and it means that she deserves our respect. And Bella is a much better human than you, if that's what you're asking." I felt a pang of gratitude towards Ralph, but it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and resentment simmering inside me. Why did Layla always have to be so manipulative and cruel? Luna, our family's patriarch, spoke up, her voice firm but gentle. "Enough, Layla. You know that we treat all our children equally, regardless of their birth status. And Bella, dear, you deserve to be treated with respect and kindness." Alexander stared at Layla, his gaze questioning as he said, "Layla, what's going on? What do they mean?" Layla stared at him, her face pale and devoid of emotion. I can explain," she said, her voice shook as she tried to speak again. Before she could speak, Alexander rose up and began to walk out. Layla, oblivious to his angry state, ran after him. "Alex, where are you going? We aren't done," she shouted at him. "How dare you speak to me after lying to me all this while? "Who the fuck are you?" he shouted at her. Taking dangerous steps towards her, he pushed her and she fell, clutching her belly bump as she screamed. "What on earth have you done?" My mother shouted at Alexander as she hurried to Layla's aid. "Get the doctor, quick,"